Hey guys, Bailey here from Carp Dreams, and as you can see, we've stopped at a service station. Yes, that's right, we're down to West Sussex to go do another very special interview, as I really love their work, and they're like, almost like a personal hero for me. I've wanted to interview them ever since we started Carp Dreams, and now I've got the opportunity, so it's going to be awesome. I won't tell you guys who it is, but it's an awesome person. Dad, let's go. Hi guys, yes that's right, we are joined by half human, half carp, Simon Scott. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Bailey. Thank you for coming to VS Fisheries. It's been nice to show you around.
It's been a lovely day, and I just really want to say a huge thank you to Simon, Sue and Martin, who have all helped out today and made this day a wonderful day. I've really enjoyed it, coming around, seeing all the ponds you've got here and feeding the fish. But why did you choose fish farming over all the jobs in the fishing industry?
Okay, it's a really good question, and I've been asked that before. As a young guy, Bailey, probably when I was 6 or 7, I used to, I was very lucky. I grew up in a village in West Sussex, and at the bottom of the field beyond where I lived was a tiny river. And I was pretty much into everything that swam about in that river from very small. And by the time I was 7 or 8, I was collecting bugs and beasties out of the river and trying to rear them. So I used to collect frog spawn and grow the tadpoles and then release them. And then when I'd watch the fish spawning in the river, I collected spawn and then tried to rear it. Obviously I killed most of them, so I had buckets of doom on the front porch.
Oh no!
And then it's kind of come from there. I've always liked growing stuff, so I have a big veggie patch. I enjoy growing things. It's good to, it feels very satisfying to grow something. And I've always obviously been mad about fish from a very early age, and so that sort of passion with growing stuff, and fish and carp fishing kind of go hand in hand.
So so when you were younger, you've really wanted to do this for pretty much a really long time.
Yeah.
So you've completed one goal. What's the next? What are you going to do next?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to give you a quirky old answer, because if I had my time again, I'd love to be an astronaut.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I thought Tim Peake going up to the International Space Station was extremely cool. I'd love to have a go at that. And the idea of living on a space station in microgravity, I think I wouldn't want to go for 6 months, but I'd take a week or two, would be quite good. I like to sit out at night and watch the stars. I do that when I'm fishing. So.
Well, you were saying that you and Sue were sat out and watched the badgers.
Yeah, so we're quite into the whole of what goes on around us, not just the fish ponds.
And so you're also saying that you tried to rear the carp and whatever swam in the river and spawn. What's the process from it going from an egg to going from selling size?
Okay, well, that's quite a complicated thing to answer briefly, and your poor old viewers don't want to sit here and listen to a 2-hour lecture from Simon Scott on how to rear carp. But basically, we select the brood fish in early spring. Oh,
go on.
Hopefully you got that on camera. The cameraman's up to the job. So we select the brood fish. We then move them indoors in early spring. So when I say early spring, sort of May time, we warm them up to 23 degrees, and then when we've selected the individual females and males we want to breed from, we inject them, which stimulates them to release their eggs, and then we collect the eggs and the sperm, mix the two together, and that enables us to control completely the fish that we spawn from. The process then is they're reared indoors for about a week, which takes them from something the size of an eyelash, very, very small and very vulnerable, and it maybe grows them to a couple of centimetres long, and at that point they've got quite a big menu in the pond of things they can eat, and from there on they go through a process, and we rear fish to the end of their first year, and they'd be called C1, so carp 1 summer. And C2s and C3s and C4s, C5s and C6s. Now, to give you an idea, and for guys watching the blog, a C1 at the end of its first year might be so big. You know, the sort of thing you might catch on a single maggot and a whip. Good fun, but not the most spectacular carp you're ever going to catch. A C2 would be this size, maybe a pound or so. Yeah, and if they've done really well and there's not too many in the pond, they might be 2 pounds. If they're overstocked, they might be 3/4 of a pound. A C3, maybe 5, 6 or 7 pounds. A C4, so 4 summers of growing, the range would be somewhere between maybe 7 pounds for the smaller ones, and they might be as big as 14 pounds. And then the C5s would range from maybe 15, 16, 17. Sometimes you get a 20 pounder after 5 summers, so it's a hell of a growth rate, and C6s are generally achieving 20 pounds, so that gives you a bit of a rough idea. And our business is about selling particularly C4s, C5s, C6s. So
there's some years you get a better crop as such than others, so you get a better batch of fish.
Yeah, definitely. So there's several things that affect that. The weather. So for carp, which originate in an area of the world near Turkey, the Caspian Sea, carp actually aren't native to the UK. So for them, the UK is quite a chilly old spot. So the warmer the summer, the better it is for growing the fish. So if we have nice warm weather, that makes a difference. And that also affects individual ponds around the farm. So if a pond is a bit shaded by trees and doesn't get the sunlight as well and stays a bit cooler, even if it's just ½ a degree in a day over the course of a growing season, that adds up. So a nice warm pond is very productive, but we do see some years are better than others, and that could be to do with the environment, the temperature, as I said, the weather, and also the fry that we spawned. And I would encourage, when we get customers come to us for fish, it's always quite good to get maybe some C4s and some C5s, or buy 10 one year and 10 the next, because that way they're going to get slightly different batches of fish.
Yeah.
I try and mix it up, so all the carp, if you get 100 carp from VS Fisheries, the ultimate 100 fish would be 100 different looking carp.
Yeah, that's the aim of it.
Yeah, and as a carp fisherman, what we like, I think, most about our sport, apart from the fact they grow huge and they pull like stink, is they all look a bit different. So you can name them. You wouldn't get a single scale and a heather and the dustbin if they all looked identical.
Exactly, you couldn't tell which one.
Fishing.
Exactly. So we were saying about the bigger fish, and sometimes you do lose the big fish as well, and also some days you can blank and not catch at all. I think some anglers give them too much credit for intelligence. How actually intelligent are they?
Ooh, They learn through experience and association. So if a carp has been caught 10 times on a bait, then it would become cautious of it. If it's been hooked off the same spot 10 times, it might become cautious of that spot. So to give you an example, in my garden pond from time to time, we've got the odd fish crashing out behind us, you know.
There you go.
It's your dad chucking bricks into it. Make the vlog look interesting. Bricks, not pebbles, these are big fish.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, if a fish has been caught off the same spot, they might become cautious of it. Now, as an example, in my garden pond, if I try and catch the little baby carp in there sometimes to thin them out with a bit of bread, they only have to take that bit of bread flake once and drop off, and they won't go near it. You can see them, they go up to it and they won't take it. So they've already learned there's something suspicious about that. So intelligent might be the wrong word, but they definitely learn quite quickly through association.
So you're saying that as baby fish, do you reckon that sometimes when it happens once they remember, or is it not like that?
Yeah, well, these fish in the garden pond would be this big, so little tiny first year fish, and I try and dap them with a bit of bread flake on a little hook, you know, and a bit of light line, and you get one and you take it, and then maybe it fall off the hook as you're swinging it in. That fish, I struggle to get a bite off that fish in the same setup. They go up to it and they're like, I'm not eating that, I know exactly what's going on here. So that's after one capture or one miss and a fish that big. So you think of a 20-pounder that's eaten your banoffee wafter and thought, okay, that smelt nice, I tried it and I got clumped by Bailey, can't believe it, and then he took pictures of me and slung me back in the pond. Maybe it made that mistake once or twice in a year, but I think they learn quite quick. So I think really one of the qualities of really good anglers is that they are able to read the situation quickly and maybe change rigs or change bait, change the situation or the line lay. And you don't have to do something hugely different, something that just takes it out of the sphere of understanding of that fish, and that gives you an edge. Yeah, exactly.
So, as we said at the beginning of the video, you're an extremely busy man, and we've been very lucky to come down here today. But is it seasonal with the busyness? I know it sounds stupid, but
no, it's a good question. So yes, the simple answer to the question is yes. So, as carp farmers at this time of the year, and the reason I can spend a Monday showing you around, which has been great fun, is that at this time of the year we're not too busy. It's important to check the water quality, so the oxygen and the ammonia, check that the ponds are healthy, and obviously keep an eye on the stock, look for dead fish, check there are no predators, check the otter fencing, all those sorts of things. But we're not really busy. In the first week of November, when the harvest starts, we're fish farming. We're harvesting carp pretty much every day of the week, and that involves taking all the water out of the pond, like this one behind us, draining it down, physically taking all the fish out, taking them back to the fish house, grading through them all. Some will go off to be sold, some will go back for another year, and so that's intense, hard work. And then that'll hopefully come to an end normally in March, and then I have a busy period, particularly in May when I'm spawning the fish, and then hatching the eggs and rearing the fry for a couple of weeks, and then hopefully it settles down a bit in the summer, which allows me to do stuff with corder and go off and possibly catch a fish or two of my own.
What sort of size can you start selling the fish? Okay,
well we sell some C1s. So when Viv Shears and myself set up the business, our plan was that we would sell predominantly C4s, or 7, 8, 9, 10 pounders, and C5s to the sort of specialist restocking market. That was kind of where we thought that there was a good potential sort of place in the market. As a byproduct of rearing fish, you end up with too many, because you want to grade for good quality fish, and just generally too many. Carp are very fecund, which means they produce lots and lots of eggs, and in the very safe environment of the hatchery and also in our very carefully prepared fry ponds, you should get very good survival. And if we get good survival, then we will have surplus little fish to sell. And C1s, I talk about C1s like this, we often sell those. We sell a few of those and a few C2s as well.
Well, everyone, moving on slightly from that, but I've learned loads already today.
I'm going to test you in a bit.
Okay.
It'll be a written exam. It's only 3 hours, but you'll be fine.
I could do it on the way home then, 3 hours. But so everyone who really knows me well, like family and friends, they all know that this is my dream job and this is what I want to do. And I've been asking around what sort of universities I should be going to and what sort of colleges should I be thinking about. And the name that's been commonly said is spatial, and I know that you were a lecturer for some long period of time.
You can say 20 years is fine, Bailey. I can say that. 20 years before that I was a student there as well, so I know spatial very well. Yeah.
No, like the back of your hand.
Yeah. So yeah, spatial is certainly within the fish industry a very well respected establishment. I was very lucky to go there as a student, and I've been a disaster at school. I was dyslexic. My reading age was when I was 10. When I was your age, 13, is it? When I was 13 years old, my reading age was about 7. You know, I was way off the pace. I found English a nightmare. Maths was horrendous. I'm still not good at maths or English, but I try a bit now. When I went to Spatial, I thought, my God, this is amazing. You can actually go to a college where you're learning from guys about fish, and for me that was kind of like the light went on, and then I really started getting into my academic sort of studies, and then I went off to do a master's degree. So Spatial was I hold in, you know, it's very fond in my sort of memory of how I got on. And they do very good degree courses there, so I think for yourself, obviously a bright young man, if you could go there and do a degree course, that would give you a good opportunity in the fish industry for sure.
What can Spatial add to my armoury?
It would give you, if you were to do, it depends what you want to do, but Spatial, you know, for example, the degree qualification would give you a very good route into working within the fish industry, for example, the Environment Agency or fish farming. It's not quite so strong if you wanted to go and work in the fishing industry, although there are a lot of ex-students that are working in the fishing industry. There is 1 or 2 units on angling, but it's more fisheries management than it would be fishing, if you like.
Well, when we had the interview with Ali, he was saying that people kept emailing him saying, oh, can I have some work experience, I've been to Spatial, and that got me thinking, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to work for like the big companies and stuff like that. I want to sell fish to the lakes and end up seeing my fish be a 40-pounder one day. Yeah. And I guess that you get a huge buzz from that when you see the post go up.
When I was a student at Spatial, I went and worked for a guy called Steve Gratwick, and I got 50 little carp like that. At the end of my work experience, he said you can have 50 out of that tank. Now, obviously, I was ultra keen. I was probably 17 years old, and he said, if you come in on Saturday or Sunday, you can pick the ones you like out of that tank. Now, there was about 10,000 in that tank. I went through every single one of them, and I had a 1st division bucket, a 2nd division bucket, a 3rd division bucket, and a rejection bucket. I went through every fish, and I ended up with about 400 in my top set, and I had to whittle that down to 50, and I've still got a couple of those fish alive today.
Oh wow, that's really incredible.
Makes them quite elderly, even more elderly than I am.
We were talking about one of the fish that you got from Mr. Gratwick, called Zippy.
Yeah, I had, so there were 3 Zippies originally. They were all called Zippy because they were little baby Ziplinias, but he would have been this big, and he went in my little garden pond at the time, and as they got bigger I had to thin them out, so he became one, and he was a male Ziplinia, and we now, the Ziplinias, the commons and the leathers we produce here at VS Fisheries are all his descendants, so which is lovely. I like to walk around the farm and go, I picked your great-great-granddad out one day. And he was like this. He was, you know, if I said to you more like a sturgeon than a carp, he's like a rocket. You know, it was about
like
that deep and about
carp.
that long. And yeah, he's a magnificent fish. He swam like a sturgeon. He's really angry.
Right, so linking with that, I've got a magic wand in my hand right now, and I'm going to give it to you, and you can make your perfect carp. What aspects will it have?
Okay, well that is a good question. I like that one. My magic wand. No, I better not use it on the wife. So I would say firstly, in answer to your question, I wouldn't have a favourite carp, because I think, and then that's one of the things that makes carp fishing so special is, we touched on this earlier, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
I've been very lucky. I've fished some amazing places, and one of the things that makes the fish that lived in those places so fantastic was they looked different.
Exactly.
And I think if you catch, I used to see it a lot, for example, at Horseshoe Lake. It used to be very famous for fully scaled mirrors. There were loads and loads of fully scaled mirrors. Now I'd go to Horseshoe and do a night. If I caught a fully scaled mirror, I'd be absolutely doing cartwheels around the lake. Didn't matter if it was 18 pounds, it would be an amazing fish. The locals would it's a double figure fully scaled. They wouldn't even take a picture.
What?
So because they've seen so many. So yeah. I think, you know, to answer your question, if I produced 100 fish off the farm and let's say Viv delivered 100 carp from Via's Fisheries, I would like the customer to go, oh my God, that's amazing. That was amazing. That was amazing. And after 100 times they'd go, I'm not sure I could pick a favourite. They all look beautiful because you want them all to look different. And if you know you're catching lots of fully scales and you get a leather, you're excited. You know, if you catch a zip linear, you want them all to look different. So I would, if I had a magic wand, I'd make 100 different looking fish, and they'd be all different shapes and sizes.
What a fantastic answer!
Like that, and like that big, high back, deep, gutty one, and then a big torpedo. You want them all, wouldn't you?
Love it. And now moving on slightly to Corda, like you mentioned earlier.
Do they make hooks?
Oh, they do. And the DVDs that they do them as well.
Yeah, I've done them.
Everyone else, like Ali does the zigs and the long casting, but I love your section because you always do like a different quirky method. And then in the last one, you did a method where you had it on the bank stick and dropped it in, and then it went off, and you had to reel it in and hit it. And what's the strangest way you've caught a carp?
Well, I think that went down very well, that bit. And the only reason they get me doing the quirky bits is I can't cast like Daryl, I can't spawn like Dan, and I don't use goo like Ali does. So they think, well, what can Scotty do? He's quite good at catching them just inside the bank. So I end up doing the quirky odd things. I think the most quirky thing I've ever caught a carp on, this is going to be a little bit off the radar, but it was the yellow head of a Lego figure.
What?
With the little face and the little eyes.
Crazy.
Yeah, well, it is crazy. I don't think the carp looked at it and went, oh, there's a yellow face for Lego man. I think it probably thought there's a bit of sweet corn, but it worked.
How did you get it on the hook? Did you hair rig it?
I hair rigged it, yeah. I didn't put a hook through a Lego man's head. That would have been done for sort of Lego cruelty. You couldn't do that.
Love
You're
it.
locked up.
Right, so now we're moving on to the top 5 Carp Dreams killer questions, and you've already answered one of them,
right,
which is the viewer's favourite of the strangest bait you've caught a carp on. Now, the first one is one tip, and that one is if you could give a young angler like myself, or an angler who's just starting, what tip would you give him and why?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, if I had just one tip for a new angler, I would say put your phone in your pocket and watch the water. Because the one thing that I was taught a long time ago is what makes a really, really good angler is you never ever stop watching the water. And I do it at the fish farm all the time, and when I'm at the lake. If you're looking down at your phone, you will miss even just a little nose poke out, and I've caught some huge carp because I saw that and went, that was a fish, and moved and caught them.
Yeah.
So watch the water, and I think it really in the last 3 or 4 years with the advent, everyone's now got iPhones, everyone's on social media. If you're looking at your phone or looking at your laptop or whatever, you're not watching the pond, you're missing stuff. And I think all the really, really good anglers that I know, guys, I catch a few fish, but guys that catch lots and lots of fish, they never stop watching the water. Are absolutely watching it all the time.
Fixated on the water.
Constantly watching the water.
And so my next one is, you often get asked what's the killer rig at the moment, but now I'm going to ask you, what 2 rigs would you take with you on the session that you didn't know anything about the lake?
Ooh, I would take a very basic pop-up rig, probably, and then a knotless knot with a bit of shrink tubing. Probably, if I didn't know the lake, a size 6 wide gape, probably some semi-stiff coated braid, and basic pop-up rig. Keep it simple. Another thing that I was taught, I'm going to squeeze another tip in here, but a rig placed, the wrong rig placed badly but in the right spot is better than the best rig in the world placed in a spot where there are no carp. And again, you can read the angling press. And certainly when I was your age, I read everything, I read all the magazines, there were only 1 or 2, and I wasn't very good at reading, remember. But I looked at a lot of pictures, and you're seeing all this stuff and thinking, I need to buy this hook link, and I need to buy that hook, and I've got to use this lead, and so-and-so's done that and caught well, and so-and-so's done that, he caught it on that bait, so I must go and buy that bait. And I ended up with a garage full of bits and pieces.
That you don't really need.
Actually, when you strip it back, what you need is your eyes, a good pair of Polaroids, a sharp hook, and some strong string, and you can land 50-pounders.
So my next one is, how would you approach a really pressured water? Because young anglers like myself, we're at school or university during the week, and we only get chances to fish on the weekend, and that's when the lakes are at their busiest.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, again, use your eyes, be prepared to think outside the box. I don't often get a lot of time to go fishing, and one of the things, you always get drawn to the really popular swims on a lake, because you think, oh, that's such and such a swim, or that's done a few really nice fish. But I tend to look at swims and think about the rod hours to bite. And if those popular swims, if there's guys sitting in there every single night of the week, and they've got 2 or 3 rods out, and then only a couple of fish come out there, I think that's a lot of time. And in my experience, if you get off your backside and have a walk round, 99 times out of 100, I'll just walk and walk and walk, and somewhere around the edge of the lake I'll find a carp cowering under a tree, and I feel more confident I'll catch that in 10 minutes flat than sitting in that swim over there for a week. So yeah, you know, walk round, find the fish, and don't be the sort of little quiet bays that are often overlooked. Oh, the no carp bay, those sorts of places, or oh, that's a little corner, no one ever catches one there. Those are exactly the places I always put bait. Because you know, you sit on the farm, they learn. If they will know that the hot swims, those regularly fish spots, yes, there's free food there, but they're also going to get a nasty experience there as well. So I find the corners, the little overlooked spots, you know, a handful of hemp, a few broken up boilies, you know, that is the way to catch those odd carp.
I've got 2 more. One is because young anglers like myself are on a limited budget, what do you reckon is the most important piece of equipment that we should spend most of our money on?
You've thought these questions out because they're brilliant. I think the most important things, I would suggest, buy a pair of Polaroids. I speak to a lot of young guys, and when I was teaching at Spa Shoal, I'd often say, have you got a pair of Polaroids? Oh no. But they'd have the best bite alarms and the best reels and the best rods, but they hadn't got a pair of Polaroids. And I wouldn't leave home to go fishing without them. I have 3 sets with me all the time. 2 prescription pairs and a pair that go over the top of my normal glasses. And I've always got a couple of pairs in my fishing bag, so because I do trash them and lose them and they fall out of trees. I've been stalking bigger fish and my glasses just plop, and you see them sink down beside a 40-pound, and you think, that's probably not very cool. No, glad they didn't get that on film. So Polaroids, really, really important. The next thing would be really important to have sharp hooks. And don't be shy of spending a £3.50 on a packet of hooks, and also strong line. Don't skimp on the line. When I used to fish at Raysbury, I've caught fish on broken bait runner reels. Bosh! Broken bait runner reels, a telescopic rod that was broken. So the rod and the reel you could have probably bought from Argos for 50 quid, no less than that, a £5. You know, really rubbish gear, but if the line is strong and the hook is sharp and goes in, you're going to land the fish. So don't skimp on line, don't skimp on hooks, and buy a pair of Polaroids. I think, okay, you've got to remember the angling industry wants you to buy rods and reels and all the stuff that, you know, all the stuff that goes with it. And part of going carp fishing is that it's the fun to have. Yeah. My bite alarms. And I remember buying, having a sounder box and going, oh God, it's amazing! It bleeps when my buzzers bleep. How does it do that? That's incredible. So that's all cool, but the really important bits to catch the fish,
the hooks and the line.
Hook and the line, and you've been able to see the fish. So yeah, you don't need to have a £200 rod. Yes, it's lovely, but you don't need it. You can get really good budget rods and reels, and that will work perfectly well. So as a young guy, if you've got a really limited budget, hooks, line, Polaroids, and then spend a bit on bait, because obviously that helps. But you can buy a sack of Vitalin for 12 quid. So.
Now the last one is normally what's the strangest bait you've caught fish on, and you've already answered that with the Lego head.
I'm not sure I can top the Lego head.
So I'm going to change it slightly. On most of your films you do like stalking and stuff like that, and you have your little method mix, and I call it your magic method mix.
It's not magic all the time.
Can you tell me what's in that?
Yes, I can. We'll have to make it up quickly. It varies a little bit depending on what. It's normally always got hemp. I love hemp, and from what I see on the farm, carp absolutely love hemp. It's normally got some tiger nuts in it, either chopped or whole. It'll often have some pellets in it, and it normally has some broken boilies in there as well, crumbed up bits and pieces. I like to have a bit of a mixture of bits because it gives me different options. My number one bait forever would be tiger nuts, because the tiger nut was a nut that that most other
So-
coarse fish struggle to eat. So because they're hard, that tench, bream, rudd, roach, they
And
struggle.
they're irresistible.
Yeah, and carp absolutely love them, but I like to have a mixture. So, you know, boilies, some good quality boilies. I'm a great fan of Baitworks bait. I would use that all the time. And yeah, I don't be afraid to chop and change. I've seen, you know, and often from young lads like yourself. I remember fishing a lake in Cornwall once, and there was a young guy who used to turn up. I thought I was reasonably good. I was in my sort of early 20s, I guess. I was catching a fair few, but he'd rock up with a bag of white shelf lives straight out the tackle shop, and he'd just chuck a handful in and chuck his rig out and catch one after another. And I remember thinking, it didn't make any sense at all. So don't be be prepared to chop and change. You know, the first guy that used a bit of plastic and caught one, he must have been thinking, I can't believe I caught a carp. Now look, plastic sweet corn works brilliant, doesn't it? So, you know, who were the first guys that tried the hair rig must have thought, can't believe I'm doing this, and look how well it works. So, you know, you've got to try and think a little bit outside the box.
Well, thank you so much for spending a little bit longer with me to
That's
go
all right.
through this
It's been
interview.
a real pleasure.
I hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have. Thank you, Simon, and I've got to be off, but thank you very much. See you guys next time on Carp Dreams.